One person dies every second. 2 consecutive years of death. 50 million people are gone. Europe is now half empty. This is the Black Death, the most terrifying plague in human history. But for 700 years, there's a question no one can answer. Why did it happen in 1347 of all years? Not a year earlier, no later than a year. In 2025, scientists finally uncovered the truth. The real culprit wasn't the fleas. Instead, it is a volcano whose whereabouts remain unknown. They found evidence in Antarctic ice cores, a huge sulfur element, peak time locked in 1345. Its intensity is twice that of Mount Pinatubo. This ghost volcano blocked out the sunlight. Europe experiences 2 consecutive years of extreme cold. The bookmakers suffered a large-scale Venice was driven to the brink of despair. He ordered that no effort be spared in seizing grain from the Black Sea. The life-saving food was recovered, but the grain contained fleas infected with plague. A volcano ignites a famine. A famine opened the gates of hell. 50 million people thus became casualties of the volcano. But the story is far from that simple. The lead researcher of this study, Professor Buntigan of Cambridge University, and German historian Martin Bauer, they spent several years, 3 completely different chains of evidence they were pieced together. The first clue is hidden deep within the ice sheets of the North and South Scientists, samples of ice stars were drilled from Greenland and Antarctica. These ice layers are like time capsules for Earth. Naki records the changes in atmospheric composition every year. As a result, they discover the flow content of this layer in 1345, ranked 18th in the past 2,000 years. It belongs to the top-level anomaly. More importantly, North and South Poles. Simultaneous deposition of sulfate at the same concentration. What does that mean? Volcanoes must erupt near the equator. Sulfides can diffuse to both poles simultaneously. This mysterious volcano is most likely hidden in the tropics. Second clue. Ancient trees from the Spanish Pyrenees. Scientists studied thousands of living trees and naturally preserved dead tree samples. Tree rings from 1345 and 1346 were discovered. An extremely rare blue ring appeared. This blue mark, trees in extremely cold environments, stress response. Blue rings appear for 2 consecutive years. In the entire European multi-round record, it is almost impossible to find a second case. What does this mean? Those 2 summers were almost as cold as winter. How can crops still be popular? The third clue. Hidden between the lines of historical archives, researchers sifted through 14th century administrative records, chronicle of letters, even the poems and epitaphs of that time. They didn't let any of them go. The results showed that between 1345 and 1347, China, Japan, Germany, and France, Italian observers, they all coincidentally recorded the same strange event. The sunlight dimmed. The clouds are getting thicker. Someone even observed it once. An eerie dark red lunar eclipse. All these intentions point to the same interpretation. A massive cloud of volcanic ash obscured the 3 chains of evidence from 3 completely different fields. But they all point to the same point in time. This is not a coincidence. This is irrefutable evidence. But the volcanic eruption was just the first domino to fall. What's truly fatal is the ensuing chain reaction. We need to understand the unique situation of Italian city-states in the 14th century. Venice at that time, Genoa. Florence is like Singapore today. Highly urbanized. There is almost no agricultural land, relying entirely on trade. They established coverage, trade network throughout the Mediterranean, extremely efficient. Famine occurs anywhere. They can all be quickly repaired by hanging beams from elsewhere. For decades, when other countries become barbaric, Italian city-states have never suffered evil, but the volcano of 1345 changed everything. Sulfide aerosols block sunlight. Mediterranean region experiences 3 consecutive summers of sharp temperature rainstorms cause disasters. Severe soil erosion. Southern Spain and France. Northern Italy suffered a complete crop failure. Vineyard poor harvest, wheat field crop failure. Historical records show grain prices soared to an all-time high in 1347. Venice, it has fallen into the worst food crisis since its founding. The entire city was on the verge of riots. At this time, the Venetian government made a decision that changed human history. They ordered a peace with Mongolia. Ceasefire between the capital and river merchant ships. Head immediately to the Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea coast. Panicked buying of food. This is a high-stakes gamble. The gamble is on the survival of the entire city. The merchant ships did indeed bring back life-saving Venice food. Escaped the famine. Genoa did the same thing. The city-state saved its people from starvation. However, no one knows what's hidden in these grains. Plague bacillus, this tiny bacterium, as early as the beginning of the 14th century, it has already ravaged Central Asia. Scientists use genetic analysis. His place of origin has been identified. Kyrgyzstan, the Jiangkan Mountains bordering China. The hanta and rats there are his natural hosts. And Dongfang Shuzhou was his deadly When infected fleas bite a host, bacteria multiply rapidly in the flea's intestines. Blockage. The fleas were starving. They will bite any living thing it can find. Not a bite. It was put into the victim's blood. It expelled thousands upon thousands of these fleas carrying the Grim Reaper. It was hidden in the grain of Juanyun, a port on the Black Sea. They crossed the Black Sea and entered the Mediterranean Sea aboard merchant ships. They finally arrived at major Italian ports in 1347. According to records, the first human cases occurred a few weeks after the merchant ships docked. What happened next? It can only be described as hell on earth. The infected person first developed a high fever, headache, and general weakness, then under groin and neck. Swollen lymph nodes started to appear. The color is black. That's why it was called the Black Death. These lumps can fester and rupture. It emitted a nauseating stench. Most patients die within 3 to 5 days of infection. There wasn't even time to say goodbye to family. Even more terrifying is when bacteria enter the lungs. It will develop into pneumonic plague. At this time, diseases can be transmitted through coughing and breathing alone. A single cough could wipe out everyone on the street. People at that time, I have absolutely no idea what I'm facing. Some believe this is God's punishment. Some believe that Jews poisoned the well water. Some people even formed groups of people who eat slapping each other while marching, attempting to exchange physical pain for God's forgiveness. These absurd coping methods, it'll only make panic and death spread faster. In less than 3 years, the Black Death swept across Europe. Florence lost half its population. There were so many bodies in Venice that they couldn't be buried, only able to dig mass graves. More than 800 people are dying every day in Paris. Some villages in Britain were completely wiped out. Not a single living person was left. Ultimately, it claimed 30% to 60% of Europe's population. This ratio, when applied to today's, this is equivalent to making 400 million Europeans researchers disappear. I discovered a very interesting phenomenon. Not all cities were affected. Rome was almost unaffected. Milan also escaped unscathed. Why? Because these two cities are surrounded by large grain-producing areas. They do not need to import food. Nature. Therefore, those deadly merchant ships were not introduced. The discovery of fleas. This strongly supports the theory of the spread of food trade. The Black Death was not a random natural disaster. Instead, the human trade network invited him into its home. The most chilling aspect of this study. This proves that the so-called perfect storm really exists. Volcanic eruption, climate anomalies, food crisis, trade network. These 5 dominoes of pathogen transmission. Indispensable. Missing any one. Black Death. It was impossible for it to erupt at that time in 1347. Professor Bruncken, a researcher, said, many factors must be in place simultaneously. If anyone is missing, this great plague would not have happened. In other words, humanity has escaped countless potential disasters, but if you fail to dodge even once, it's a catastrophe. What is even more alarming is, researchers pointed out, this perfect storm in the 14th century. In fact, it is an early example of the negative consequences of globalization. The efficient trade network established by Italian city-states. The original intention was to diversify ensure food safety, and the result, the same network became a highway to death. The world today, more interconnected than 14th century Italy. The COVID-19 pandemic has already taught us a lesson. The researchers wrote in their paper, although multiple factors led to the Black Death, it seems to be a rare coincidence. But in the context of climate change and globalization, the probability of a zoonotic disease developing into an epidemic increasing. That mysterious volcano has yet to be found. He may have already sunk to the bottom of the sea. It may also lie deep in some tropical rainforest, waiting to be discovered. But the warning he left behind was clear enough. Natural disasters are never isolated events. He will use the network woven by humans themselves, magnified into a catastrophe on a civilizational scale. The truth about the catastrophe 700 years ago. It took 700 years to be uncovered. The question we need to consider today is, when will the next domino fall? How did he fall?